Thank you very much, Michida-san. Yutaka, I would like also to greet and thank the organizers and that also facilitated the conference and our presence here, Ms. Ayama, Mr. Kato, Mr. Yabuki, and of course co-chairs of IODE. So it's a great pleasure to be together with the family of IODE. And I was particularly touched when Yutaka Michida was announcing, he said, our executive secretary. That was really warm heartening for me. So, I would like now to try to engage you all in the decade of ocean science. And I think this is already something that is most important. We may believe that the decade of ocean science will be one of the largest scientific campaigns in earth sciences. So you see here the logo of the decade that we designed. So it's a great pleasure to speak about the decade, but it's much less pleasure to speak about the situation that happens in the ocean. Ocean is consuming more and more carbon. You will see, I will show by mouse. So more and more carbon is being consumed. Because of that, ocean is acidifying at a pace that is unprecedented and reaching some levels that have been observed in the past. They were quite dramatic. So sea level is rising, and thank you. Sea level is rising, and I would like also to say that in this part of the world, sea level is rising, particularly the tropical part of Pacific, rising faster than other parts of the world. So we have now oxygen minimum zones and oxygen depleting zones. We have plastic in the ocean in different forms, and the amount of plastic is staggering. And of course, we have illegal fisheries that still is robbing like 25 billion US dollars annually, and also from the kind of normal fisheries. So we are there to change that situation. Ocean needs our help. So we know that there are many assessments that review the state of the ocean, and I just wanted to highlight the nature of many of those assessments. That nature is basically to alarm the world about where the ocean is, what is the problem. But the amount of wisdom that goes into this alarming is also quite significant, but the number of solutions proposed to save the ocean is still limited. So I would like to highlight the first World Ocean Assessment. I would like to highlight also, of course, IPCC assessments, natural assessments, scientific assessments of polar region and cryosphere, and of course, the fishery assessments of Food and Agriculture Organization. So realizing that the ocean is in danger, and also realizing that the whole world, because of climate change, because of many other issues, is in danger, United Nations in 2015 started the Sustainable Development Agenda with 17 Sustainable Development Goals. And of course, this is a big achievement that we have ocean as Sustainable Development Goal 14 represented there. We have Sendai Framework for Disaster Risk Reduction that also started in 2015. And it is of particular importance for this country because of the tsunamis and earthquakes and that are quite frequent there. So we have conventions. For the first time in the Paris Agreement of United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, the ocean was mentioned in terms of ecosystems. Of course, we also have Convention on Biological Diversity with targets accepted in Aichi target accepted in Japan. So what I would like to state here is that there are many frameworks in the ocean, in this, United Nations system, that are aimed to move forward the sustainability. But the nature of those conventions is aspirational. We don't yet have a legally binding convention on protection of the ocean. And on the United Nations Convention of Law of the Sea, UNCLOS, there is now an intergovernmental conference in which many countries that are represented here are very active and vocal. So this convention is going to come up, hopefully, with a legally binding regime on conservation and sustainable use of biodiversity beyond areas of natural jurisdiction. So if there is a legally binding convention, but the science of oceanography has also to be put on a different level. The data that we provide will be also meaning something legal, something binding. So this also is an element that we have to take into account in our considerations. But so far, as I said, these agreements are aspirational. And people who know what is happening in the ocean are uniting. So there was a big conference in 2017 on the ocean, on sustainable development goal, on protection of the ocean, on activities in the ocean. There are every year conferences called Our Oceans, collecting voluntary commitments to save the ocean. Recently, in November last year, there was a conference on blue economy, and the idea is not just blue economy, but sustainable blue economy, just keeping the ocean able to provide the services. And of course, the group of countries that also, most developed countries, think about the ocean, and soon there will be a meeting, as you all know, of G20, and next month there will be a meeting of Science 20, also calling attention to the issues related to the ocean. People are uniting. There is a communities of ocean action that came from the ocean conference. We are leading in this 9 communities of ocean action, the community of ocean knowledge. There is a Friends of Ocean Action associated with World Economic Forum. And the United Nations, businesses are coming together because businesses are now, and private sector are guardians of sustainability. And of course, there are also attempts to highlight, to seek support from the highest level officials. So the high-level panel on sustainable blue economy that was organized, the Prime Minister of Norway has 13 heads of state or government participating in saving the ocean. So there is huge momentum there. We celebrate days, the World Oceans Day, World Tsunami Awareness Day, now a day of fight against illegal, unreported and regulated fishing. So we're trying to unite the society behind the need to save the ocean. But the reality is quite grim. So despite we have Paris Climate Agreement, the emissions of carbon continue to grow. And so the year 2018, according to World Meteorological Organization, was the year of the highest anthropogenic emission of carbon. And the scenarios that we have, at least my own personal and informal view, may result in this development. So the world may be much warmer than we would like it to be. And this is really a warning, really warning sign for us. So when it comes to money, a lot of money is generated in the domain of blue economy or of ocean economy. So according to the Worldwide Fund estimation, in 2015, it was 2.5 trillion of US dollars annually. OECD, on the National Economic Cooperation Development, assesses this value as 3 trillion by the year 2030. So this is, and the ocean economy is like a seventh economy in the world if compared with GDP, global gross domestic product of countries. But if you look at the ocean observations, that IOC is the leading coordinator and leading sponsor. So this is a system that is developing as well, and it was 1 billion US dollars per year. So it's 3,000 times less than the value of the money that is supported to some extent by the system. And IOC is able to invest in the coordination of the system $300,000. So again, 3,000 times less. So, you know, we under-observe the ocean in terms of how much we can invest into this, and we under-coordinate the ocean when it comes to our ability to invest into coordination mechanisms of that. So if we look at the Global Ocean Science Report, that IOC published in 2017, it was unveiled at that big ocean conference in New York. So we analyzed the structure and infrastructure and resources available to oceanography and also productivity. This is the picture of the world that shows the number of publications. Of course, we have to measure the capacity of science probably in different ways, but if the only way for us to measure was in terms of peer-reviewed publications. And if there are more publications focused on oceanography, then the country area is increasing here in this graph. And you will see that there are centers of ocean sciences. I would like to mention 3 centers. This is basically North America, this is Europe, and this is Asia, and of course with Japan also, and Australia, Japan leading. Of course there are other some centers, but you will see no Africa in this world. Africa depends on the ocean. but the capacity of African scientists to produce and also science and also to benefit from advances in science is very limited. So that's the situation in oceanography. So we have to think about this. Situation is, to some extent, like it was in the climate domain in 2008, when science was already there, but there was no action by governments. So this triggered some report of University College London in terms of how we can organize thinking about the science so that it would lead to decisions. And one of the ideas was the social contract for climate science, which I think has to be expanded to all natural sciences, including oceanography. So we can state that our science still remains voluntary, despite it's now starting to support legally binding decisions. So in this under-resourced, the governance needs to be stronger. And of course, capacity of the science is uneven when we think about geography and where the science is delivered. So, and again, as I said when I was presenting to you the assessments, it is quite good when it comes to capacity to highlight issues, but our ability to propose solutions is still weak. So we need to mainstream the science, and that would be, I think, the social contract for such organizations like IOC. So we proposed to United Nations in 2017, and we developed the idea of a decade of ocean science 2016, and then we proposed this idea to the United Nations under the title "The Ocean We Need for the Future We Want." So this was a very serious proposal. It was very seriously discussed by the United Nations General Assembly, and it was approved. So decade was proclaimed. So we, since then, have developed a roadmap that many of you know. We moved forward from this idea of ocean we need also to the idea of the science we need for the ocean we want. And we would like to engage now everyone in the decade of ocean science. The idea here is not an IOC decade. It's United Nations decade of ocean science, but it's even beyond that. It's your decade. It's your once in the professional lifetime chance to make difference in oceanography. And of course, data is at the center of that. So when it comes to expected societal outcomes of the decade, we would like the ocean to be clean, the pollution removed from the ocean to be healthy, that requires management of science-based management of ecosystems. We would like to have, of course, ocean productive, and this also means sustainability, productive in the long sense. We'd like also to have ocean safe. That would be coming, referring the needs to predict tsunamis and other tropical cyclones related to the temperature of the surface layer of the ocean. So indeed, to predict the ocean. And then I highlighted in a little bit different color the words transparent and accessible ocean. For us, this is the way to highlight the importance of having open and free access to ocean data. So that is most important for us. In that sense, the ocean has to be transparent, and this will also lead to transparency of decisions related to the ocean and to sustainable development. So to cut the long story short, we are working very hard on designing the decade. Unlike many other campaigns in social sciences and or environmental sciences, we would like this decade to be really designed. Not completely top-down, but with strong design element. So we think that there must be some breakthroughs achieved in science, in ocean science, and then these breakthroughs will lead to changes in the capacity of those who are involved in social applications to achieve their goals. So we would like to really, for the first time in history, to have the map of the ocean topography completed by the year 2030. So we do this with the JEPCA community and also with the support of the Seabed 2030 project with support of Nippon Foundation to the JEPCA community. But this is much more than just the map of the ocean depths. We have to map resources, we have to map ecosystems, so it has to be really digital atlas of the ocean. So that is a super challenge. This of course relates to data. Then we have to complete the observing system. Observing system is already quite acceptable in terms of physical domain. where we can use Argo floats, satellites, and Argo floats going to the depths of 2,000 meters. But it's still weak in the polar regions and still in the domain of pilots or design mode for biogeochemical, biological, and ecological variables. We don't know really how ecosystems function. This is particularly true for bottom ecosystems. So we are really engaging the ecosystem community to understand how physics, biology, and sociology work in for example, 66 large marine ecosystems. But you know that the global ocean observing system produces certain essential ocean variables. Are these the variables that the management of ecosystem requires? I think they're converging, but still there is a long way to go to understand how the ecosystem function and to be able to manage the ecosystems. I won't speak about data, I'll speak about it later. Of course, multi-hazard early warning systems. Last year, there were two tsunamis in Indonesia with more than 2,000 deaths of people. So they were just not related to the earthquakes, but also to some other factors, apparently, including collapse of volcano or submarine landslides. So the warning was not delivered. It was possible to deliver warning on the first occasion, but it didn't reach the audience. So you know we still need to do much more. And the approach using multi-hazard warning systems, for example, that the World Meteorological Organization is trying now to coordinate and to get information to civil protection is important. So we have to do a lot to make sure that the last mile of warning is reached. So now, of course, we cannot look at the ocean in isolation, because ocean is a part of a climate system, is a part of the Earth system. Earth system modeling, that also involves economic sciences, social sciences, has to be developed, and the ocean has to be, oceanography has to be a strong component of that look at the Earth from the scientific viewpoint. And of course, this is only possible if the public decision makers, governments, private sector, and of course kids are knowledgeable about the ocean. So we try to develop the concept of ocean literacy. And of course, you saw the uneven character of capacity inside. This also comes to the need to strongly develop capacity in oceanography and ocean sciences. So if we achieve progress in this, and we have to be really proactive in doing this, then our capacity to do coastal zone management, maritime spatial planning, and also we'll be able much better to contribute to domains of adaptation and mitigation of climate change, to management of fisheries, to have better policies. So, but for that, we have to convey requirements and also resources from those domains that generate value and generate policies. We have to convey this information and resources to the science, and science has to inform that. It has to be a process. We hope very much that this process will be designed, and this means communication between different communities. And this is where the IODE comes in. The idea of ocean data information system with, right now we just think of a list of sources of data, repository of sources, but I think we have the capacity with the pedigree that exists and the knowledge that exists in this community, with databases, your approaches, your standardization, and also your capacity and also mandate to do more in the domain of exchange of data. I think we can move forward with the basis of what we have and turn IODE into the guardian of the future, united global portal of ocean data. So this will be meaning communication through data with certain breakthroughs that we anticipate with the ocean, the Atlas, Global Ocean Observing System, for ecosystems and some other elements like multi-hazard early warning systems, also enabling capacity and also the applications that are already outlined. So IODE can be at the heart of this development. We need partners for this. We need your commitment to this. And I think with that, it will give us a chance to develop policy that will be dedicated data policy, that will be freer and more open and more observed by partners in the domain of oceanography, because we really need to open the domain of ocean data to users. But we cannot just impose that, we have to develop this, that's the idea. So with that, I would like now to close my presentation. Arigato gozaimasu. This is very, I think, important for us to deliver, because it's not only our job, it's not our bread and butter. I think we are now serving existential issues of importance for the whole planet and also for the ocean. Thank you very much.